Alright, so we're getting to the end of the year, and I'm sure everybody's making their whole, like, oh, the top 5 servants you should summon for next year, the servants you should be looking out for next year. Nah, none of that, buddy. Here on this channel, we like to simp, right? We're only here to summon for waifus, and to grovel at their feet and talk about how great these female servants are. All the male servants in this game, with the exception of Gilgamesh, are absolute dick-on-the-floor garbage trash, okay? So instead of doing a top 5 servants to summon for, or to look out for, these are the top 5 servants you should be looking out for pure simping reasons. All right, good. Oh my, I can't take myself seriously, bro. Okay, we will be talking a little bit why they're good, but I can't keep that facade up. I will say that I'm not going to talk about any of the servants that are returning, like Jalter and Scotty. Obviously, if you need someone like Jalter or Scotty that are returning next year, go ahead and summon for them. But I will be sticking with the simping theme, so we're not going to be talking about Arjuna Alter or Super Orion. Obviously, they're like 2 of the best servants coming out next year. Arjuna Alter is like the best buster servant, period. Like, he just kills everything. There's no need to do quick farming or arts farming when you just obliterate everything with Arjuna Alter, return to buster. Then there's Super Orion, who just clobbers everything with face cards. So if you want to kill things with your NP, use Arjuna Alter. If you want to kill things with your normal face cards, use Super Orion. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get into our simp list. So kicking off our list at number 5, I have Ruler Artoria. Now this is really personal bias coming in here because Ruler Artoria is not necessarily good yet. Once she gets her buffs next year, she'll be pretty damn good. Because right now her only niche is like, oh, AoE Buster Ruler that can shuffle your cards. That's pretty neat, I guess. But when you start getting shenanigans with Ruler Artoria and say Summer BB, you pretty much have complete control over your hand. You can shuffle your cards whenever you want with Ruler Artoria and then lock them down with Summer BB. But the reason I say it's more of a personal choice is because, you know, Artoria is one of my favorite characters, one of the more simp-worthy servants in the entire Fate Stay Night cast, so she had to get a spot on this list, and she's not bad if you do summon for her. I mean, again, she's an AoE ruler, which is a very weird niche to have, because when are we going to be fighting like waves upon waves of moon cancer enemies? I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if we get it soon. I mean, they like to do wacky things from time to time. But also her being a ruler means she's going to be very tanky and very good for like harder fights, which is kind of her whole point. She's like a pseudo support servant as well, so people have asked me if they should like be summoning for her or anything. It's like either her or Zerker Musashi, who technically could also go in this spot. I just feel that Artoria deserves it a little bit more because she's bringing something new and fresh, whereas like Musashi is an AoE Berserker, but we already have AoE Berserker at home with bigger titties, so why do we need this one? Alright, yeah, arts looping, whatever. As a huge Sakura fan and as a, you know, buster simp, I'd be doing a huge disservice if I didn't put King Protay on this list, because she's pretty good for the whole buster meta type thing, which, you know, is subtly just always underground. I mean, Quick is up here in dominance, but Buster is down here underground being like, yeah, that's fine, you can be in the spotlight and everything, we'll be sitting here as the true kings, you know? And King Protay helps out a lot with that because she just doesn't die, dude. Like, she just sits there and does big unga bunga damage and doesn't die just due to raw HP. Now sure, there are some like Lost Belt fights that can hit hard enough to like one-shot King Protea, but that's not very likely actually most of the time, just due to how much raw HP she can get. Like, she can get upwards of like 60, 80, 100k HP. Like, it can get really insane because you just keep stacking the HP infinitely, and then if you feel like it, you can cash in all that HP for damage or NP gauge. But I mean, I don't know why you would do that when you could just not die and just whittle them down. But not even whittle them down, because you're doing really good damage with her. Overall, like, if you're a fan of the buster meta, or you like any of the Sakura 5, you're just a fan of Sakura in general, it's not a bad idea to chuck a few multis over here for King Protay, because she's a very good servant to have. And when she came out on JP, she caused quite the ruckus, because people were like, wait, so you're telling me there's just a servant that has like infinite HP, and they're allowing this, and they were like, oh well, I mean, she could get one shot if a boss does like a million damage. It's like, yeah, but how often are we finding bosses that do that much damage? Plus, you can put her up with Merlin, who also gives her like max HP buffs, and then also gives her even more damage on top of that. Plus, he helps her charge her NP without her having the need to sacrifice her HP stacks. Oh, she's just so good, bro. Alright, bro, look, listen, I don't really like Ishtar all that much. She's one of my least favorite characters in the entire series. What she did to my boy Gilgamesh was absolutely unforgivable, and I will will never like any version of Ishtar except for, well, Ereshkigal, but, you know, that's actually technically a different person, so I'll just take that workaround. But anyway, Space Ishtar is very, very good, and I cannot deny that, especially now in the current arts looping meta. She was kind of struggling to be a Scotty looper, like you could do it, like by changing her NP to being quick, but she functions really well as an arts looper under Castoria. She's kind of like an alternate version of Dante since they're both Avengers, but she actually has a 50% battery, a decent attack buff, and again, the ability to change your NP to whatever card types you want. Like all in all, she's just a really solid servant to summon for in 2021, and I know as much as I don't really like Ishtar, I know there's a lot of Reen stands out there that are not going to have any trouble summoning for, you know, obviously a Reen face, so me saying that she's really good is probably just going to encourage you to summon for her anyway, or just further boost the desire to summon for her that you already had. Just remember, keep her in Ascension 1 and 3, or maybe even the costume, because those are technically not Ishtar, and you and I will not have a problem. Yeah, so you know how I said that I kind of like Sakura a little bit? Well, they actually put out a relevant Sakura face this year, or I guess technically next year. And while King Protay is actually like pretty good, right? She's a good buster servant. Quick is the current meta, and so they were like, here's Kama, a Sakura face that is a quick servant, and she has cute white hair. Isn't that pretty pog champion? Needless to say, Kama is very, 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 very good. Even though she's an assassin, and you know, we kind of dookie on assassins over here because of their low damage, Kama actually does big boy damage. She increases NP overcharge, has a 50% battery, a big beefy quick buff, and she has the special ability to be super effective against alter egos. So, you know, if you're ever struggling in one of those alter ego fights, you bring Kama and you trivialize it, bro. You just demolish that alter ego. They don't stand a chance. And again, like the Space Ishtar thing, there's a lot of people that really like Sakura, so me saying, hey, Kama is pretty good, you should summon for her, is like preaching to the choir. You guys are already going to summon for Kama anyway, and this is just more fuel to the fire. You know how Wave is pretty good, right? Yeah. What if you could have two of them?